Good morning, people. Happy Sunday morning. Hope you are enjoying your weekend. Grab your cup of coffee because today we are going to discuss why we are headed for troubled times for Trump's economy. So first, let's talk about the tariffs that got us here. We were enjoying an economy that was the envy of the world. Was it perfect? No. But the inflows to our country from around the world, to our bonds, to our currency, to our stock market, were historic under Biden. Then something happened. It's called an unforced error, and that was Donald Trump and his tariffs. So where are we now with these tariffs? Well, April 2nd was the so-called Liberation Day. April 9th was the so-called pause of the so-called Liberation Day. And we are now at the midpoint of this pause, 45 days in. We're approaching it. At the time that Trump imposed the tariffs, Peter Navarro, his trade advisor, promised there would be 90 deals in 90 days. Trump at his 100-day mark promised us 200 deals, which is great because there aren't even 200 countries that had tariffs imposed. So maybe we're going to talk to some of the penguins and seals. But setting that aside, where are we actually right now? Well, there's a grand total of one deal. One with the United Kingdom. And as we discussed, if you read the fine print, it's not actually a done deal. It's an agreement in principle. Anyone who's worked in finance knows that that is still subject to negotiation. And then we had this retreat with China. It's not really a deal. It's Trump negotiating with himself lower. It has gotten us nowhere. It's just lowering from 145% and the focus supposedly being on trade to 30% and the focus being on fentanyl. But again, all Trump imposed, all his wild machinations, and basically his retreating because retailers came to the White House and told him, guess what? Our shelves are going to start going bare next month. So this weekend, Trump came back on Friday from his Middle East trip. Grand promises in the Middle East. I'm old enough to remember, and you should be too, that Trump went to Saudi Arabia during the first regime, and they also promised 600 billion of deals for us. And you know how many of those happened? Almost none. These are promises. We are, again, I'm also old enough to remember when the Republican Party didn't want to cozy up to countries in the Middle East that were not democracies. Why? We can't count on them. We can't. That's why the whole idea of drill, baby, drill at home was not being dependent on these countries. Lest we forget, Saudi Arabia, his first visit, did not allow women to drive until 2018. These are the countries that we are now counting on. Setting that aside, these deals that are sort of just like flashpoints also coincide with Trump's personal interest there. He and his family have real estate deals, crypto deals, hotel, everything there. And so that is also good for Trump personally to visit those countries. Okay, but coming back from this trip, now Trump realizes he's coming back in a cranky mood. Friday night, he's going after Taylor Swift, telling her she's not hot. This is like the guy judging who's hot. Going after Bruce Springsteen. And then also going back to the economy and the reality that we are at a halfway point and we've done essentially nothing. We have no deals other than one. So what did Trump do? First of all, he criticized Jerome Powell. Everything is Jerome Powell's fault. But then he also said that because we hadn't heard from these countries, these 150 countries, now it's 150, that we were going to impose on them the tariff amount. This is his threat now. I'm like, didn't we do that on April 2nd? Okay. But in any case, things have not turned out as he planned. And he has a small circle of mostly incompetent people surrounding him, other than maybe the exception of Besant. Most of what it takes to be in the Trump regime is either having been on Fox News or being completely loyal. These are the people that are negotiating our trade deals. Scott Besant cannot negotiate 150 trade deals. So these tariffs are actually going to come into play. Walmart came out with their numbers this week. And what did Walmart tell us? Well, they're going to have to pass on costs. Because what happened this week, folks, is there's something called the PPI that came out. And that measures basically the price index, the producer price index. It measures what producers or the people that are corporations, their price increases. And what it told us is up until now, corporations have been shrinking their margins in order to absorb the impact of Trump's tariffs. That's why you saw it more tame, because the companies were eating it up till now. I think many of them thought, well, first of all, they don't have any choice, but they could just kind of wait him out and that he would resolve things. Well, that hasn't happened. So now we have Walmart telling us that by next month, by June, prices are going to go up. It's the reality, folks. Econ 101. Like I said, this is the man, Trump, who bankrupted 6 companies. He was born with, billions in his pocket from daddy. Everything he touches dies. 6 companies. Remember Trump Airlines? Remember Taj Mahal? All of these things went bankrupt. This is not the unilateral man who should be deciding things in a global economy. But Trump, instead of taking that in and saying, oh, maybe these tariffs aren't such a great idea, attacked Walmart. He said, no, you have to eat the costs. Well, that's not capitalism. Hold it. Wall Street doesn't want you to tell corporations what they should be doing. Trump also attacked Apple. He was very hurt that Tim Cook apparently didn't come with him to the Middle East. But then he's upset that Tim Cook is producing in India, which was because of Trump in the first regime targeting China that he diversified to India. But now he wants Apple phones made in the US. And again, this is lack of basic economics. If we made Apple phones in the US, they would cost $3,000. How many of you want to pay $3,000 for your Apple phone? How many of you want to go into Walmart and instead of paying $2 for your shampoo, paying $2.30? Whatever it is, it's called a tax on consumers. There are real costs of doing things that are uneconomic. So what is next? Well, there's a measure that Bloomberg News does. It measures the S&P 500 as we approach the second quarter. How many companies out of the S&P 500 are leading to that their earnings will go up versus how many are planning to go down, to reduce their earnings. That level of what percentage are planning to go up is the lowest level since 2010. Corporations don't know how to plan around this. Some of them have stopped giving guidance. Some of them have given several sets of guidance. It is a time of uncertainty. And consumers are feeling this too. And consumers, I will remind you, are the engine of our economy. The University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment came in this week. It was the 5th month in a row of lower numbers, and the reading for this month is the lowest level, second lowest level in history. We're at 50.2, well below expectations on Wall Street, and again, 5 months of decline. What happened 5 months ago? So this is going to be a time, folks, when you're asking, what should I do? We are, as I've talked about, we are in the midst of a storm. We are in the eye of the storm. We are not at the other side of this storm. Things are going to get bumpy from here because we are only now going to feel the impact of these stupid, ill thought out, ill-advised tariffs. Trump cannot bully his way out of these tariffs. We are not yet an authoritarian regime. And if you want to know how the economy does in authoritarian regimes, Google Hungary and his good friend over there, Viktor Orban, and read about what happened when Viktor Orban came to power and started basically slicing up the economy and giving pieces to all his friends, and what happened to the GDP and the size of their economy. A little research for you. I'm going to skip to the byline. It didn't turn out so well. So we want to let capitalism be capitalism. We want a kinder capitalism for our country, but this is not the answer. But again, this is just a word of caution. Things are going to get bumpy here. The companies are not going to be eating these costs because they can't. Even companies like Deere taking $500 million in write-offs. These are the backbone. These are the American companies his tariffs are hurting, and they're about to hurt the American people. So stay tuned. We're going to stay with the truth here. proceed with caution with your investments. These are going to be bumpy times.